So moving on, this lesson is something new for you. So this is something that you haven't done in grade 10 or 11. So our goal today is I can calculate the measure of obtuse angles given the ratio. So far what we've really done is we have been dealing with acute angles, okay, so angles less than 90 for the most part. But now what we're going to do is if we have the ratio, we want to figure out obtuse angles for sine, cosine, and tan. So we're going to do a little investigation together on the smartboard. Obviously I'm going to be doing it for you, but you should also have your calculator to see if you get the same kind of thing that I do. So the first thing that we're going to look at, it says calculate the following trigonometric ratios to 4 decimal places. Okay, notice I've got the sine of 25, cos of 25, and tan of 25. So if I actually take my calculator, I end up with 0.4226, 0.9063, and 0.4663. So nothing's strange there. Okay, took my calculator, punched it in, and out it came. So now if I look at what the red says here, it says the supplementary angle of 125 degrees. Well, supplementary means something that adds to 180. So if I have 180 and I subtract my 25, I would have 155 degrees. So it is 25 and 155 are supplementary angles because both of them together add to 180. So now if I take that 155 and I find the sine of it, the cos of it, and the tan of it, and you can actually do this with your own calculator, you would find that I end up with 0.4226, negative 0.9063, and negative 0.4663. So you should notice already that the numbers appear to be identical. The only difference is cos and tan appear to be negative. Sine wasn't, though. So let's choose another angle and see whether that happens again. So this time, let's choose, I'm just going to choose 70. Okay, and again, as I said, I just pulled that number out of my head. And now if I take my calculator and calculate, I end up with a 9397, a 3420, and a 2.7475. Okay, so no problems there. Those are all positive, and actually the ones when they were 25 were all positive. Now, what would the supplementary angle be for 70 degrees? Well, the supplementary angle, so 180 minus 70, obviously, is 110 degrees. So now if I take, I'll just move this up for you, if I take the sine of that supplementary angle, amazing, I get 0.9397, which was the same as what we had here. Oops, sorry about that, you got another line there. The cos is negative 0.3420. Okay, so up here I had 3420, but it was positive. Here it's the same number except it's negative. And let's see what happens with our tan. Amazingly, I get a negative, but I have the same number combinations as the supplementary angle. So it appears that supplementary angles have something in common. Their numbers are the same, except sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative. And the real thing that is the problem, however, is actually the sine is the problem. And the reason sine is the problem, and when we get to the next page you'll see, is both those ratios are identical. So when you use your calculator to find an angle, you know, when we do the sine inverse of something, how do I know whether the answer is 70 degrees or 110 degrees? So it creates kind of a little bit more work for us, some more thinking. All right, so conclusions. When theta is acute, in other words, below 90 degrees, the ratios for sine, cosine, and tangent are, and we discovered they were positive. We tried it with 25 as well as with 70 degrees. Now, when theta is obtuse, in other words, greater than 90 degrees, the ratio for sine is positive. Remember, I said that was the issue. cosine it was negative, and tangent was negative. So when converting from a sine ratio to an angle, we got a problem. Okay, so we have a problem that we have to somehow figure out. And I'm just seeing whether I had what the problem was. I didn't, so I'm going to have to write it down. So when converting from a sine ratio to an angle, I must find two angles that satisfy the ratio. Sorry about that. That satisfied the ratio. So we know that our calculator gives us the one angle. And so to get our next one, the two angles will be supplementary. Okay, and that works here for sine, not necessarily if I was doing something different too. So, first of all, I want to state if the ratio will be positive or negative. Okay, so I don't care what the number is. I just want to know, will it be positive or negative? So, if they're acute, remember, all of them were positive. If they were obtuse, sine was positive and the other two were negative. So, sine of 58, well, that's acute, so it's positive. Cos of 152, okay, so it is greater than 90, and cos was negative. Cos of 48, acute, is positive. Tan of 91, that one is going to be negative. And finally, sine of 148 is also positive, even though it's obtuse. So the next part is the one that you have to do a little bit more thinking. So determine the value, and if you notice in brackets they put S, so some of these will have two values of theta. Okay, and remember the one we have to watch out for is that sine. It's the sine that's the one that gives us trouble. So in this case, theta equals the cos inverse of negative 0.2548. Okay, make sure you have the negative when you substitute it into your calculator. So I actually brought up a graphing calculator this time so you can actually see that I'm not lying to you. So second function of cos of negative 0.2548, and if you notice it's 104.8. So 104.8. Notice that is an obtuse angle, and it means that cos is negative, so we did that correctly. Sine of decimal, okay, so sorry, sine inverse of 0.4704. And when we do that one, up again comes the calculator. So the inverse of sine decimal 4704, 4701, I did that wrong. Sorry about that. Sometimes I'm hitting 0, but it's not giving it to me. There we go. So 28.1. Now, it could be that, or it could be its supplementary angle. So there's two answers. So my first theta could be 28.1. My second theta is going to be 180 minus 28.1. And so when we do that, it's going to be 0.9. I believe I've got that right. If not, you can correct that. All right, and finally, isn't that cute? You can just correct it. If it's not right, just correct it. 4, 5, 6, I think it should be 51. Just hold on. It's the end of the day. I'm not thinking very clearly at the moment, but we'll get it here now. So 130, 80, take away 28.1. Yes, 151. I knew it was wrong. That's why I told you to correct it, but that's all right. I could do it. Okay, tan of a positive number, so I know it's going to be acute just by that alone. So tan inverse of that number, and let's see what we end up with our calculator for this one. So tan inverse 4.2583. Oops. Enter. So 76.8. Okay, so just some stuff for you to do tomorrow. Really watch out for the sign. It's the sign that's the issue here.